For basically all of my life, I've lived in regions where it's hot and humid in the summers, freezing and snowy in the winters, and a little bit of everything in the fall and spring. For a lot of my life, I really dislike those extremes of the seasons, and I still think they can be pretty annoying sometimes. But I've also grown to appreciate the change and variety that the different seasons provide. Each season has its own pros and cons. Personally, though, I do like one season a bit more than the others. The fall. Or autumn. Or whatever you'd like to call that season. I really like the atmosphere of fall. Now, atmosphere is a little bit difficult to define in this case, but I'm including two things here. The weather and colors. You've got the weather, firstly, which can at times be a bit volatile, as I touched on before, but when it settles into it, it's a fairly cool and sometimes pretty mild season. You can just put on a light jacket and you'll pretty much be good for a lot of the time. Then, secondly, there's the colors. To me, there's something very cozy about the red, orange, yellow, brown color scheme that the changing leaves provide. Don't get me wrong, colors of the other seasons can be good too, but they give off very different sorts of vibes. Spring and summer are all crazy like, hey, look at us! Boom! Green! Ha ha! Nice and bright! Ha ha! It can be a bit tiring. And winter is just dead, basically. But fall is chill. It has interesting colors, but they aren't screaming at you like spring and summer, or making you feel dead inside like winter can. Food during the fall is really special, in my opinion. There's nice, warm apple cider, which is great for a cooler day. And while we're on the subject, apples in other forms are good too. Then you've got candy for Halloween. Even if you don't trick-or-treat anymore, you're still bound to come across a bowl of candy somewhere. Maybe at work or something. But let's be real. Even if you don't come across free candy, Halloween is a great excuse to buy a huge bag of candy for yourself. Oh, yeah, for kids that come to your door for trick-or-treating too, of course. Then there's Thanksgiving food. There's turkey, of course, but also mashed potatoes, gravy, stuffing, cranberry sauce. So much good food. There's pumpkin stuff too, I guess. I'm not really as into the pumpkin spice thing. How many of you have actually tried pumpkin by itself? It doesn't really have much flavor. You're giving it more credit than it deserves. Really, they should just make stuff with a more generic fall spice flavoring instead. Anyway. There's Columbus Day, more recently being replaced with Indigenous Peoples Day in many circles. There's a bit of controversy here, but in the end, it's important to remember the actual history behind both of the holidays. Now, nothing usually happens on this holiday, but I still remember in elementary school being forced to memorize the names of the ships Columbus used. I think there were 3 of them, but I don't remember their names. Strangely enough, I've been able to function just fine without that information. I also remember bunching our desks together in little pods, then having brown construction paper wrapped around the desks so it was like we were in mini versions of Columbus's ships. Kind of fun at the time, but after learning about the darker side of Columbus, I don't know how I feel about little kids reenacting that part of history. Then there's Halloween. It's probably my favorite holiday. I've always been fascinated by the unknown, and although I'm a pretty skeptical person, I like to imagine there being more to our world than what we've seen. I really like spooky stuff in general. I always have. As a kid, my favorite CDs to listen to were spooky Halloween CDs. I guess you could say that I like ominous things too. Halloween decorations and costumes are also really fun, and often quite unconventional. Whereas other holidays often focus on doing the exact same traditions every year, there's a certain subversiveness to the spirit of Halloween that I really enjoy. You never know what you're going to get. Which brings us to expectations. As I touched on in my previous video, expectations can do a lot to disappoint people. With Halloween, though, there are very few expectations in place. It's just a spooky day. You could have a party, or go trick-or-treating, or something else, but that's only if you want to. It's sort of a choose-your-own-adventure holiday. Someone's birthday is also in the fall. Thanksgiving is a time when you can gather around with family and friends, which can be a good or a bad thing, depending on the person. For me, it's good. Even if the gathering around aspect of the holiday isn't so good for you, Thanksgiving also has a great message. be thankful for what you have. As I mentioned before, there's pros and cons to every season, and every season is special in its own way. But as you can see, there's a lot of great things about fall. It's a time of change, the transition between the warmest season and the coldest season. The crazy thing is, fall couldn't exist by itself. It exists only because of the passing of the other seasons. Its beauty is fleeting, it isn't around forever, but like so many other things in life, it's a joy to experience while it is around. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Did you disagree with me about the seasons? Or did I miss something? Be sure to let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like it, and if you'd like to see more in the future, consider subscribing. Thanks again.